Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi everybody, welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, Griffin Davis.
Yeah,
my man.
Happy to be here,
dude. I'm happy to have you. I'm working my way through this gigantic thread that I posted in the in one of the Pack Theater groups.
Huge mistake, because now you have guests like me.
Hey, you know what? You picked a great movie to talk about because this is a movie. No shit, in my top 20 all time.
It's incredible. Okay, awesome.
It's a dicey one.
Incredible. Well, if you come with the king, I'm probably gonna miss.
I can't wait to hear what you think about this one. You've chosen to talk about The Big Short.
Yes, The Big Short, which I just watched again yesterday. I rented it for $3.99 in HD on iTunes.
Oh.
I forgot how to torrent stuff. Have you stolen things? Do you still? You mean do this podcast? So you got to steal these movies?
Yeah,
right?
of course. Dude, I'm a big proponent of Popcorn Time.
Popcorn Time.
That's Popcorn Time's the best one because you know what it does. It's basically a torrent search engine, but you stream it within the application.
So
itself.
You don't have to download it.
So you download it, but it erases. You can set it to just erase as soon as you close.
Okay.
So you don't have to actually hunt it down. It's nice. It's a good aggregator.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so far from the days of LimeWire and like Vooz was the one I used to use.
Oh, I've never even heard of that one.
That was kind of like what you're describing.
I was all up on LimeWire for a long time.
Yeah.
I got probably a handful of viruses off of LimeWire.
Well, good. I mean, it'd be disappointing if you didn't get any, right?
Of course, yeah. It's either, you get viruses, you get fake Weird Al Yankovic songs, and you get some movies, and that's what LimeWire's good for.
Yeah, but The Big Short... to get to the movie, you said right before we started that it's in your top 20.
It's in my top 20.
So this is exciting.
What's your beef with it? Just lay out your case.
Before I say anything, I just want to say there's been a lot of opinions on my Facebook recently that you shouldn't shit on things because we're all comedians and we all live in Hollywood.
Yep.
And that anyone can see what's on your timeline, and I've learned this mistake more than most. I have the poster's dilemma where I should not be posting.
Okay.
And I find myself deleting a lot, and I need to get to the point where I'm writing the status and then just backspacing and deleting and never posting it.
Oh boy.
Anyways, so I want to say before, Adam McKay, I love you so much. You're so great. I've loved most of your movies. I love Succession so much.
I've never seen it. I hear it's a great show.
The best comedy to come out in years. It's incredible. I stand Succession all day. Please, I will kill to be on Succession Season 2, Adam. Adam, I've seen you do improv. You're so funny, and I've stood next to you twice, and I just fell in love. You're so tall and so smart, and I love you so much. I hate The Big Short.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Okay, so I think fundamentally the first thing about The Big Short is that it feels like a documentary. Like, I couldn't decide if it was going to be like a documentary or if it was going to be like a narrative. And it kind of tries to be both and tries to like explain what happened with the banking crisis, but then like also tell a story about characters. And I feel like over the course of the movie, we just kind of like all the characters are just kind of like talking heads, and like we don't really know what anyone's individual character needs are, or most of the movie is just Steve Carell walking into rooms being like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on? So I just feel like it fails to tell a compelling like narrative story, and then also I feel like fails to fully explain the machinations of the banking crisis.
Oh man. Now these are the very two tall pedestals you were choosing to look down upon us on for liking The Big Short.
Listen, I lost my house, my car in the banking crisis, everything, so maybe this comes a little bit more raw for me.
It could be personal.
Maybe it's personal.
Maybe.
But I feel like when people try to explain the banking crisis and like break it down into terms, I feel like it didn't fully explain it in a way that was interesting or like motivated the narrative.
Okay. Let's unpack this a little bit.
Help me through this.
If you haven't seen it, The Big Short, just to catch you up, 2015 American biographical comedy drama directed by Adam McKay, based on a book that shows how the financial crisis was triggered thanks to the housing bubble stars Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, a bunch of other attractive white guys.
So many white guys, all hot.
Yep, all of them. All of them hot. Most of them wearing suits.
Yeah.
It's very much like let's have a bunch of white guys show off just how chiseled their jawlines are.
And if they got button downs, baby, you know those sleeves are rolled up.
Maybe a little two-tone collar action. Different color from the shirt. So it was...
It's a big cast.
It's a big cast. Definitely an ensemble story.
Absolutely, yeah.
And well received critically.
Well received critically.
It got, let's see, I know it got a bunch of Oscar nominations.
I think it's at like an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Something like that. Let me take a look real quick. It's got an 88%.
It's an 88% because people love to think about this concept.
Yes.
They love to think about 2008.
Well, the big... I think, I don't remember what year it was, but Inside Job was not too far before this. I want to say like 2013 is when Inside Job came out. And that felt like the first time that people were really like, oh, we have answers now? Let's take a look. We have people we can be mad at.
Yeah.
And that won Best Documentary at the Oscars.
Sure.
And Matt Damon produced that, if memory serves.
And I think that is a good movie because it exists in its realm. It plays its role. It's a documentary. You know.
But this Big Short changed the way people looked at it because it's a narrative.
Yeah.
But it is filmically or cinematically rather. It's definitely I can see the split that you are describing.
Yeah.
That bugs you so much because they do a lot of really dumbing down some of the concepts that but to the point where it's like we're gonna get Margot Robbie in a bathtub.
Let's talk about these.
Let's talk
about how they dumb down the concepts.
Let's talk about this.
Okay, so the first one is we're gonna explain a complicated thing. We're gonna put Margot Robbie in a bathtub. Which was just too distracting for me to listen to what she was saying. I'm sorry. It is. She's a beautiful woman. And I was not listening to what was going on because she was in a bathtub.
The device was too effective.
Too effective. And also a little skeezy. I mean, I'm a skeezy person. But, it was just a little kind of skeezy. And also, there is just a side note, and this is the lamest thing I'll say on this podcast. There's a major continuity error in that scene.
Oh,
she
is there?
Picks up a champagne flute, and they cut to it in a center shot, and she picks it up again. And it just, it breaks my brain every time I see it. But I'm not going to talk about continuity or editing anymore, but I just had to mention that.
But, you're right, it is skeezy, but I do think it's kind of designed to be that way.
Absolutely. Because they know what they're doing.
Right, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's almost part of why I think that scene works, as opposed to feeling like it's too engaging in the worst parts of why people are going to be paying attention to this scene. I think it's no, we know exactly what we're doing, which is some of the things that Adam McKay did in Vice that I didn't appreciate so much.
Okay.
I think he's a director, as far as I can tell, based on his new sort of era of filmmaking that he's getting into.
It is a new era with him.
It is very much a new era. He's not making Anchorman or Talladega Nights anymore. Yeah. He's got this new style, and I need to watch. I guess I really need to watch Succession to see if it plays out in the TV show.
Wow, because Succession is all of the style and things that don't work. I think in The Big Short work so well in Succession because Succession is a narrative about a rich family that's based on the Murdochs, that own a giant media corporation, and just how they're all just trying to sabotage each other and usurp each other, and how just the children of rich people are pathetic. And it's just so funny and so biting, and I feel like it has so much more to say than The Big Short because it's just trying to tell a good story. It's trying to explain how Murdoch News politically exists, with all these facts and stuff.
Well, the thing, and on that standpoint, a lot of the characters in The Big Short, which you mentioned specifically having a problem with, is that you don't really get.
We don't get arcs.
There are no arcs because these characters are sort of the heroes of the story, but not really. All the people who you actually kind of feel for are the peripheral characters.
Yes.
The people who are the ones who are actually affected by this crisis.
People who lose their house.
Right.
There's a family that they show that lose their house.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
When they go to that development in Florida.
Yes.
And that's one of the most...
That's where it hits home.
That's where it hit for me. That's the part that I was like, this is the scene where it's where the movie has been elevated for me.
Totally. I actually completely agree. Rewatching it yesterday, I was like, wow, this is the scene that has heart.
Because I mean, I didn't know about this until you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You lost your house and your car.
Yes, I did.
So what?
So what happened was my dad is kind of like he's like one of those kind of like guys who buys a house in Compton for like garbage and then tries to like do the IKEA treatment and like flip it.
Gotcha.
And that started picking up for him in like 2004, 2005.
Okay.
And we were never poor. Like, I rode in the back of a newspaper truck with him to school every day. But then he started to, like, his business started to grow, and, like, in the early and mid-2000s, we got rich all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I wasn't riding the newspaper truck. We were in a Lexus. We had 3 motorcycles. We had a 4-story house on the beach. Like,
what?
And then that lasted for a year and a half, and then 2008 hit. And the whole real estate market just crumbled, and like everything my dad had built just kind of like went to shit.
Oh my god!
And it was like it was like we started acting like we were rich people, and then all of a sudden we weren't again.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So when that happened to you, did seeing that happen to people on screen, did it affect?
Absolutely.
It affected you in a very different way.
Absolutely,
obviously.
And I think we needed more of that kind of stuff. But I'm also interested in seeing a story about bad people. I can see shitheads like Wall Street people if there's like a clear arc or something. But I just kind of felt like this ensemble was just kind of like just tracking the money and like the financial events, and like no one was going through like a character moment,
right?
If that makes sense, except for Steve Carell.
Steve Carell is fantastic in this movie.
Oh my god, I couldn't disagree more.
What?
I think he's awful. His accent changes scene to scene. And like I said before, he walks into every room just like a flustered like weasel, and it's just like, what's going on in here? What? You just gonna let this happen? Okay, like I appreciate the energy. I think Steve Carell's a great actor. It didn't work for me personally.
That's fine. I just like seeing Steve Carell be all frantic and angry and yelling and swearing at people up and down.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Now that you are helping me bring to light a little bit, and now this is like, well, I definitely need to be watching it again. Mm-hmm. The characters in this movie, I would say this movie, I can see why it won for a screenplay and got nominated for other awards, but the screenplay is really, I think, the thing that shines the most about this movie.
I actually agree with that, yeah.
The acting in Vice, probably better than the acting in The Big Short.
Sure.
I think Vice was saved by its performances.
Yeah.
The Big Short is saved because its script is strong.
Absolutely.
And its script is a unique way of telling this story that you come from a perspective of a guy who's been doing comedy and improv for decades at this point. Getting someone who's like that to tell a story about a seminal moment in American history, you don't have... Nobody has done that at this point and gotten the prestige that Adam McKay has gotten. So I can see why that's the thing that is the most acclaimed part of it and won the most awards for it. But I mean, Christian Bale is just playing a dude who listens to thrash metal and doesn't hang out with anybody.
Sure.
And to the
he's
point,
very isolated.
He's very isolated. They're talking about him being some sort of like a beautiful mind autistic genius.
Yeah.
But it's like that's he's a flat character.
Yeah.
He's way more two-dimensional than he is. I mean, even in Vice, Dick Cheney is still kind of a two-dimensional dude.
Yeah.
Because you're playing him as sort of just like the antithesis of American bureaucratic evil. But in this, it's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to play a quiet guy who knows about the stock market and figured out things.
And weirdly, because I know you haven't seen the movie in a while, the movie starts and really there's all these scenes starting with his character, like establishing him. He's like swimming, it establishes him as a child, like all these things are like, oh, this is the main character. We're like investing in character right now. This is gonna be good. And then we just kind of forget all about him, and he sits in his office for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
The one character that I truly love
Who?
is Brad Pitt's character. Brad Pitt's character is incredible. Basically, Brad Pitt is this wizened, like, old financial guy that, like, has gotten out of the game. And there's these 2 young kids.
Yes, Hamish Linklater and
who are good.
The other guy, Finn Wittrock.
Yeah, and they're these 2 kids who have just, like, started a business and they made $30 million and they got lucky and they're trying to, like, step it up and try to be big boys at the table. So they call this old friend they know, who's Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Who's this guy who has, like, 8 different phones with all different numbers, and he won't pick up the phone unless they call the right number, and he just like was a lived-in, like, fun character, and I thought he was really interesting.
So what do you think about all the other characters that they just didn't feel lived into you? Is that your main criticism from that standpoint?
No, I think every actor is like given it their best, but I just don't know if they have like a middle point or an end to like what they want. I don't know what they want. I know they want money, but like I don't know like other than that.
I mean, that's the thing. Even like Steve Carell's guy doesn't really want the money. Like his whole character trait is I am in the system and I'm a hypocrite.
Total hypocrite.
I hate it.
Yeah, total hypocrite. But then it's like he just kind of like walks into every room in the movie, says that they're a hypocrite, they say he's a hypocrite, and then he walks out of the room. And then at the end he's like, okay, I guess we made the money, I'm sad. I don't know. It felt like it was missing something.
What do you think it was missing? What do you think would have changed your opinion on this movie?
I feel like I would like to have focused on less characters, stuck with people the guy who's in an office all alone. I'm just totally blanking.
Christian Bale. What's his name? Michael Burry.
I feel like if the film focused on like learning more about Christian Bale and Steve Carell's lives, like what they wanted, like what led them to make their decisions, I just feel like that would be more of a movie. And instead, we're like getting just like the fundamentals of what happened through the crisis with like really well acted people moving through the scenes. So I feel like I want to get more invested in the characters. I want more scenes about character. Like, there's a scene that I recorded with my phone, but the audio is too bad. I was going to play it in this room. But there's a scene where it's Steve Carell's on the phone with the guy from Succession, who's one of the guys that works for him. And they talk for like 2 minutes about just garbage financial language, and then just the scene ends. It's like, I do not know what happened in this scene at all. It's almost comic, like, with all the financial kind of garbage language they use in it. It's almost like a sketch in itself, where it's just like, oh, a business sketch. I need the CDO numbers. And it's like, oh, the CDO, that's 1.9 million. Oh, well, then the subprimes, I thought the subprimes were good. Like, the movie simultaneously wants to explain everything to you for the first half, and then throws it all out and is like, we're just going to start using the terms all the time. Good luck.
Yeah, and Adam McKay, obviously everybody, if you don't know, for whatever reason, sketch comes from a sketch background.
Yes.
Saturday Night Live. And do you feel like that is... It's interesting that you say it feels like a sketch. Do you feel like that sort of scenario, not necessarily that exact one, where it's just like, businessmen, but do you feel like it kind of some of these scenes play out too much like sketches?
No, I'd like it more, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think there is like attempts at comedy in the movie, a lot for sure. But no, I don't feel like I don't feel like the movie ever made me laugh that much. Not like the way it does in Succession, where it's just like the laughs are from such a painful, amazing place.
Yeah,
and it's like really like they really have the number on every type of elitist rich person in Succession. Like they like really know all these different shades of horrible rich people and like how they think and interact. And I want like more of that stuff. You know, I want that type of life with it. You know.
Yeah, that's the thing The Big Short really doesn't dive into.
Yeah.
You're showing us a lot of rich people, and of course you do get to see some of the flavors of the people who know that the crisis is going to happen, or they're the ones who are completely saying they're blind to it, and they're like, I don't even fucking care.
Yeah.
And you get to see that, but that's only one shade.
Yeah.
It's that, or the people who know it's going to happen and they're still going to wind up profiting off of it anyway. That's it. You can't really root for either of those standpoints.
Yeah.
Or at least you can't even be like watching it and thinking that you're making fun of it in that way, that it sounds like is being that happens on Succession.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Succession's incredible. Like the only people I really care about in this movie are Brad Pitt and those two young kids, because at least they're up against the most. Like they really have no power and are just trying to do everything they can to become big boys.
Right.
And that is at least a more interesting conflict than like a bunch of big boys arguing in rooms all the time.
Yeah.
With like not a lot of character interaction.
I kind of want to see one of more. Let's get some guys who just got some thrift store suits and they're just hanging out and they're trying their best. Now I really do got to watch this movie again. I'm feeling.
Okay, so
this happens to me sometimes on the show. It's just like, you could be very right, and I haven't gotten a chance to check it out again.
It's fundamentally one of those movies where if like the subject matter people care so much about that they're just so happy the movie exists at all. And frankly, I'm actually, while I don't like the movie, I'm happy it exists. Like I think Adam McKay's on the right side of history. I think he tried his best to explain to them his goal is pure. Like he is trying to explain to common people that go see movies what happened in 2008.
Right.
Like that's like a very honorable thing to try to do. Like with art, I just didn't think it was successful. But I don't think that it was like, I don't think the movie like set us back or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad movie in the way that it's making things worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that Adam McKay made this movie is not a detriment to society.
No, not at all. But it is one of those movies where it's like everyone wants to hear about 2008. So even if the movie isn't that good, it's gonna be well received, I think.
So chop out all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Chop out the parts that are bad.
Uh-huh.
You're left with these two nice kids just trying their best.
Yes.
And they're the ones who run into Florida. And they're the ones who go, actually are on the ground and see the most tragic parts of the movie.
Yes.
I think oh God, Griffin, man, just talk to me. What else you got? You got some other notes. I need to just absorb for a second.
Hit me with more notes. This is exactly what I wanted because let me sit down with anyone for an hour and I'll convince them about this movie.
That's what happened. This would happen when I talked about 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Uh-huh.
Same deal. I was like, oh fuck, maybe it is a really bad movie.
I think also the one note I wrote is all the executives cackle like hyenas and maniacs. It's weird. Like I see what they like every scene, all the extras and all the other business people that are just like. And like I get it, like they're trying to show like just like how evil and like how crazy and like Wolf of Wall Street this stuff is. Mm-hmm. But it's always more true to me to see like an actual real depiction of a character and like how they're sad, how they're crazy, like they do in Succession really well. So I felt like that. There's some style choices in this movie that just do not work for me.
Go on.
A lot, and I'm sure this happens in Vice a lot too, which I haven't seen. But a lot of times characters break the fourth wall and talk to Kim. So like one character, the most heinous one that happens is there is a narration going on explaining that one of the characters that works for Steve Carell had a bad divorce or his wife died or something like that, and they're like, but he doesn't talk about it, and then the character turns to camera and goes, I don't talk about that, and then turns back in, and it's like there's just like random style like that. It's like I would have made that choice in like film school. Like I would have done that at NYU. Like we're gonna break the fourth wall here. Like fuck it, you know. It's just like there's like okay, you tried something there, but I just don't know if it worked for me.
Okay, fair.
The narration does not work for me. It's weird that Ryan Gosling is the narrator because I feel like he has the least to do with this plot, if that makes sense.
That 100% happens again in Vice.
Okay.
A character is the narrator who almost has nothing to do with the plot.
It's the Great Gatsby thing, where it's like, oh, we're gonna make Nick the narrator, not Great Gatsby. We're gonna view the Gatsby from like a periphery, like side angle. But like Nick in that book still has a very close relationship and lots of scenes with all the other characters. So he's like still very narratively connected to the story, even though he's a tertiary character. Ryan Gosling is in rooms with people twice in the movie. Mm-hmm. Like he like barely exists with any of the characters.
Right.
And the narration just comes so in and out that it's like you just wanted Ryan Gosling to narrate the movie.
He gets extremely high billing in this movie too.
Huge billing.
I mean, this is what 2015. So he's a huge, gigantic star at this time. Like he's definitely hitting his peak.
And then I hate movies that have what I'm going to call the wife scene.
Okay.
Now, this is a scene where a wife character just apparates from nowhere to just console the lead.
Yep.
So Marissa Tomei is Steve Carell's wife in this movie. First of all, good job, Steve.
Nice. Steve, congrats, buddy.
Second of all, but it's just such a classic wife scene. She just appears out of nowhere and makes him feel better. We have no idea what she does, what she wants out of any of the scene, and she just shows up twice just to make him feel better. So that's just like, no more of these scenes. Come on, Adam. Like I feel like he can do better than that with the female roles in this movie. Because I mean, other than that, we've just got Margot Robbie in a bathtub. Like, is there any other major female roles in this film?
There really are not. It's a lot of.
It's just dudes.
It's a lot of dudes.
And like maybe that's true to the story. I mean, Wall Street is mainly just dudes, but
Selena Gomez shows up.
Selena Gomez also shows up for a second, yeah,
and that's pretty much
to blow on some dice for representation.
This is here's the actual character names of all the female roles in this movie. Marissa Tomei is Cynthia Baum.
Okay.
There's Sophie Lee as Woman in Glasses.
Incredible.
There's Jae Soo Park as Michael Burry's wife. doesn't even get a full name.
Sure.
And then Margot Robbie as herself, and Selena Gomez as herself.
Yeah, so a tough movie for women. Not exactly exciting. And again, we'll go back to Succession has excellent female characters. The female, the sister lead in that show is nuanced and interesting and crazy in interesting ways, and also a strong character at the same time. So it seems like just like all the things that he was attempting to do in The Big Short and maybe in The Vice, like all of those things are working at like on a prime optimum, like firing on all cylinders in Succession, because it's about story, it's about narrative, it's not about explaining anything.
Right. Now I really got to see Succession, because the thing that I like about Vice, that I like about this movie that I didn't like about Vice, was I felt like we already knew the story of Vice, to a large degree. Mm-hmm. This story of the whole housing crisis and the bubble popping in 2008 is much more intricate, and I think that this is about as close as we're going to get without watching a documentary to seeing it laid out, which I think is why I liked it, because I liked Inside Job, certainly. I love seeing the in-depth.
That's a good movie.
But this is nice because it's popcorn, and you get it.
Absolutely.
And for people who just want to have a fun time,
feels like it felt like you learned something, but did you?
Exactly.
Like for all the effort to dumb everything down, I would pay someone $100 to walk out of the movie and explain to me the financial crisis.
I could not.
You couldn't. You couldn't.
100%.
So it fundamentally didn't explain the information well enough for people to learn it. So it's just taking up space in a movie that could be more about characters.
Man.
Anyways, one other note.
What else you got?
Okay, they do a lot of things where they use as transitions. They use lots of clips from the pop culture of the time, and Adam does the thing where he self-references. They use one of the original Funny or Die videos as one of the pop culture moments that they're channeling.
Oh yeah, the landlord.
They
video,
use the
right?
landlord sketch as this was of the era, this is the time. And I get it's kind of nudgy and winky, but in a movie where I've already just eye rolled from all the fourth wall breaks and all the kind of pomp and we're gonna tell you just how this went down, I was just no, don't reference yourself. I don't know. That was maybe just a me one.
Well, it's also I think you can probably get away with doing one, but if he's going full bore and having a lot of Will Ferrell as George Bush,
no, thankfully they don't do that one.
They're not. Thank God. Yeah, no Ricky Bobby references. None of that. We can let that slide a little bit.
I feel like Talladega Nights was more of a moment for me than that Funny or Die video. But
do you feel like the character development in Talladega Nights
so much better than this movie?
Better than in this movie?
Absolutely. Yeah, he learns that being first isn't everything.
That's true.
That's his character arc.
He loses his family.
Yeah.
That
he gets him back, right?
I mean, he gets him back, but he has to learn.
Yeah,
he has to become his own person.
Yeah, and the most any of these characters have to lose in The Big Short is a couple $1 million. The real stakes come into play once all the major players have decided to bet against the market, and this is kind of the part of the movie where the stakes raise and are these characters gonna make it out of it? Because all of these different rich dudes have dumped money into essentially betting that the housing market is gonna crash. It's right when the housing market is supposed to crash, it doesn't, because the banks start lying and saying everything is okay. So it's this kind of oh no, this is the moment where it's all going to go wrong for everyone, and all this money that they invested in is just going to go to waste. I just don't care. That's not a knife to the heart enough for these characters. All these dudes are rich, up in skyscrapers. I don't care that they owe $1.9 million to some firm or something like that.
Right.
You know,
I think part of what this movie effect-wise, because it had an effect on me when I was watching it. I remember, of course, the scene we talked about numerous times at this point, when they go down and they see people losing their homes. But the scene when the bubble pops, and you actually get to see Steve Carell sort of just dumbfounded as he watches his bank account rise. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly because I haven't seen it in a minute, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's the ticker goes up, and all of a sudden the numbers are up.
And there's 3 more zeros.
Yeah, and I'm just oh well, and he's just sitting there dumbfounded because he's a hypocrite. Yes. Because that's his one note character.
Yes.
But I remember watching that and being man, these people really played us. This is so fucked. Yeah. And I think that I don't know how many other people who watched this movie who felt that, but it doesn't sound like you did.
I think the scene that reminds me of is towards the end. Steve Carell is sitting at his rooftop penthouse Central Park view apartment, looking sad.
So it's just
I'm just like, this poor baby. Like, I love views of Central Park. Like, I think like I would kill and murder to live in one of those places. And he's just like sitting up there looking sad. He's like, all right, let's sell it. And then that's just the end of his character.
You can't feel bad for these people.
Yeah, I can't feel bad for him.
But I can't feel bad for these people. I feel bad for everybody else.
Yes.
I think that's the...
Now, what if Steve Carell had, like, lost more personally from this experience? Like, what if, like... I know you can't make stuff up, but it's like if this whole experience ruined something about his family, or you know, just something to really just like show that this was more affecting on a personal character level.
Yeah, that's my real my bone to pick here now is you have you've thrown out a suggestion, of course, of how to fix the movie, which is changing the focus. But what are some other things that you think could have been done to make this movie something that you liked?
I think like if you're gonna like obviously pick a side, documentary or narrative. If we're going narrative, like remove most of the details, because like that's not really what's important. Like what's important is to know that people in power are destroying this planet, like destroying the country, destroying the planet, and they can't be trusted. And all those things, like this distrust in the big boys, that's an important sentiment, and we should just focus on that, and just in stronger, more character related ways than just numbers. Yeah.
Is there a director you think might have been better equipped to tell that story than Adam McKay?
No, because he's doing it right in succession. Like, that's what's so fucking frustrating about this. And I know he's not directing the episode. Maybe he's directed a few of them. I think he's just like mainly an EP. But it very much cribs the style. It's like, it's shot mockumentary style, where it's like zooms and stuff, like nice cameras, but you know, there's like zooms on characters and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like almost shot like The Office, kind of. Man, I wasn't prepared for like film remedies, because I feel like if I have like, oh, this is how the film should have been made, like I haven't made a feature in years, and like I can't say that I would make a better movie about this.
It's a tricky topic.
Yeah,
it's a hard movie to wrap your head around. I think that I still will probably watch this movie and like it again, but now I can see your side of things. It's Adam McKay basically did the best he could with what he had in your point of view
for what he was trying to do, which was be like informative and character driven at the same time. Like, and then like I guess he did the best that he could with that. I mean, the movie is fun in certain ways, and it does like move around and stuff like that. And you know, people love money. People love thinking about money. There is sort of a wish fulfillment part of this. It's like, ooh, what if I was one of these guys?
Right.
Like, what if I was playing with big numbers like this? I think
that stuff like that is why Crazy Rich Asians was so successful to some degree.
Yeah, and also representation. Like, people didn't have an Asian rom-com movie. Like,
right.
But also the rich part for sure. But yeah, people like thinking, oh, what if I was this rich guy? Like, I think there is some kind of, you know, wish fulfillment in that kind of stuff.
I used to fall down when I was still on Tumblr. I used to fall down the Rich Kids of Instagram Tumblr page because something about it is just like it's the weird wish fulfillment.
Yes,
I don't know what it is.
I follow rich kids in these like Mexican cartels, because they have the most insane shit. Like, they're taking Instagrams of like their like rare white tiger with like, you know, a bunch of guns and money and stuff like that. But it's like all of the it's like Instagram on crack, or like on Four Loco or something.
I didn't even know this existed.
It's amazing. Yeah.
What? Can you show me some of these?
Yeah, I'll pull them up after.
Recording?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, those are my favorite. I know, and I've like grown up around rich kids. I love stories about rich people because they manipulate our world more than anyone, and they're like fascinating. And I love thinking about the children of rich people, the kids that just like aren't equipped like to follow in their rich parents' footsteps, and that's what Succession's all about. And
I gotta watch Succession.
Yeah, and that's like, I probably said that's what Succession's all about like 20 times so far. But yeah, what were we talking about?
Oh, I got one more question for you, which is besides Succession, obviously, because we should watch that, because this is what it's all about.
Good.
Is there a movie that you would recommend people watch instead of The Big Short?
About the crisis?
Not necessarily something, but maybe like another Adam McKay movie or something else that manages to walk the line of being a comedy about a sort of heavier subject or sort of a more impenetrable subject.
More impenetrable subject.
Take your time. I know this is a tough one to ask right off the bat, like The Film Remedies.
This is so like a whole other box of worms or can of snakes. But there is a movie called The Dirties that is a comedy about a school shooting.
I have seen that movie.
It is intense and weird, and I don't know if it if it's like, oh, like this is the movie that's like has the final say on the subject. But it's like a movie that tries to tackle like mental illness and like growing up in high school and stuff like that in a very interesting and raw and somehow funny way.
Right.
There's also that movie about the 4 terrorists. That's a comedy.
4 Lions.
4 Lions.
4 Lions is a real tightrope walk of a movie.
Real tight. I love tightrope walks, and this is kind of what I try to like. This is what I love about certain comedy too, and what I try to do in comedy. I love tightrope walks. Like I like when I'm like walking on a tightrope where I feel like any wrong step will put me on the wrong side of history, but it's like fascinating to watch people walk that tightrope.
Yeah.
It's like people are on their edge of the seats more than ever before, and especially if you can walk the tightrope with people feeling like you are on the right side and you won't fall, it's a fun place to be.
Yeah, I love comedy that can actually pull that off.
Yeah.
And
most of it doesn't, and most of it's like...
Exactly, because people are not skilled enough to do it.
It's so hard to do.
But
it's so fun in idea and theory to be edgy or to do a sketch about racism or something like that. But it's where you have to be so confident in your worldview that other people can feel confident in it too.
Yep. If you can pull it off, more power to you. Griffin. My man.
I'm sweating.
Dude, I'm also sweating. You put me through my paces. This is one to walk home on. Think about. I can't wait to rewatch Big Short with this in mind. Thanks for bringing all this to my attention.
Thank you for having me.
Where can the listeners find you?
Oh man, every 4th Sunday at the Pack Theater, I do a monthly sketch show called Very Famous. That's very fun. I also do a weekly podcast called Game Boys, where we have comedians come on and talk about video games that had an important moment in their life. That's always a fun one. If you have any video game nerds out there, go and check that one out.
There's probably some overlap.
It's gotta be, right? No, that's the funny thing about you comedians is like, most of them also are total video game losers like me, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah. I grew up playing I played Asheron's Call way back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, all about Mario Party, all the games.
I'll have to hook you in there sometime. And then just Griffin P. Davis on all social medias. Please follow me. I need 10,000 more followers.
Let's get that happening.
I need 10K more.
If you are one of my followers and you do not follow Griffin, I don't have 10K, but we can get you at least another maybe 6.
If I could do one of those like subprime loan scandals where I fake the numbers for a little bit, just like the housing crisis.
You can pull that off.
Yeah.
I actually tried for a little bit. I tried because you can go on Twitter and find accounts mostly in Africa, but of people who are like, I follow back. Follow. And so I was like, let's try and goose my Twitter account a little bit. So I followed as many of those as I could. Search #followtrain, and I followed everybody for like a week.
Yeah.
And then I just started unfollowing everybody because I don't need to see all of this in my timeline. Because also at that point, it's mostly people just posting and retweeting follow accounts.
But Twitter knows you're doing that. If you unfollow more than 20 people at a time, they like hide your account.
Yeah. So, I would do it in drips and drabs, and I unfollowed everybody, and I still got like 1,000 followers out of it, because most of the people don't care, but there's probably people who are actually tracking it day by day and being like, this person unfollowed me, how dare he, no more.
I did the really pathetic classic LA thing. I posted a headshot of myself yesterday, and now for some reason, 1 million actors have started following me because of I posted a headshot. They're like, oh, you're garbage like we are. And I've just been getting 1 million actors follow me on Instagram. So guys, post a headshot.
You can follow me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, and that's, by the way, now I get a whole lot of people following me because of they're thinking it's a Diet Tips and a Fitspo Instagram account.
It's impossible to break it in comedy on the internet now because all of the rafters and forums have kind of glued together, so where it's just like the people that have 20,000 followers are just going to get 30,000 now. So you really have to like exist in spheres that are untraditional. Like, I'm starting to think about like posting comedy on Pornhub. Like,
it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. Most of like my videos have like my live sketches have like 6 views on them, but my one video of a live sketch I did, that's called Spit in His Mouth, has like over 1,000 views, and I've never promoted it. So I think you just have to trick people in that your comedy is porn, and then they'll just watch it anyways.
That's not a bad strategy.
That's my strategy.
Griffin, I hope that works out for you.
Okay.
And you can follow him and all his social media accounts to see if it pans out. And listen to Game Boys, and if you like this podcast as well, rate, subscribe, do the same thing for Game Boys, because it's just a little bit more validation for us.
Please.
Thanks for tuning in to Blockbusting, everybody. Go see something good for a change.